The text I chose for my rhetorical analysis is this 15-minute interview with New Mexico Governor Lujan Grisham. She's interviewed by 3 panel members of the True Kids 1 Youth Council. This text is important or relevant because it predates the election by just a few months. It discusses many important questions to New Mexico citizens and the voters. Some of the matters discussed in the video are the state's oil boom, New Mexico's role as an energy state, allocation of oil boom profits into education, establishment of youth safety nets, school programs' role in deterring youth and violent crime and drug use, also state and minimum wages. Another issue discussed is gun violence reform and gun safety laws. We will discuss which rhetorical strategies are utilized in this text and how they are effectively used to formulate a persuasive and affirming message. Topic of this text: matters and proposed solutions to political and societal issues that relate to New Mexico's 2022 gubernatorial election. Purpose is to explore the incumbent governor's plans and strategies for the state in her second term and how she might carry them out. The angle of the text is a question and answer discussion about evolving issues in the state of New Mexico. The audience would be 2022 New Mexico voters, and what they will expect are strong and confirming messages from the incumbent governor. I would also suspect the audience is made up of the True Kids Youth Council, being that this video only has 111 views. I will say they did a great job. And lastly, context. This is a pre-election material that would be found online. The rhetorical strategies I will use in the analysis of my text will be logos and ethos. In the textbook Writing Today by Johnson, Sheehan, and Payne, logos is defined as, quote, appealing to someone else's common sense and using examples to demonstrate a point, end of quote. Chapters 10.1.1. Again, in the textbook Reading Today by Johnson, Sheehan, and Payne, they state that one should look for ethos in, quote, places where the author is trying to use his character, expertise, or experience, end of quote. Chapters 10.1.1. In the analyzation of my text, I did not come across any apparent use of logical fallacies and did not see any biases present. I'll give examples and quotes of how ethos are used in this text. The governor has a lot of credibility, which lends itself to the idea of situated ethos. She shows she's well acquainted with the subject she discusses and also displays values, experience, and reputation as she supports her claims. While discussing gun reform, the governor establishes her ethos in that she states that while gun reform is a difficult issue for policymakers, that it's, quote, not for policy setters such as myself. She also talks about gun reform in general, saying, quote, we've passed significant gun violence reform and gun safety laws in New Mexico. Also, when discussing the danger of assault weapons and automatic rifles, she states, quote, When I was in Congress, I called for the banning of these military-style weapons. Another quote affirming ethos in this text comes in the discussion of wages. While she defers wages of government jobs as a responsibility of local government, she does say, quote, "The first thing we did in 2019 is raise minimum wage, which we hadn't done in, frankly, forever." I'll give some examples of how logos are used in this interview, and that is encompassed in the way the governor gives a very pragmatic breakdown of the questions she's asked. She definitely appeals to the beliefs and values of her audience by giving a logical and analytical approach to the issues that she's asked about. Logos is at use in this text. We see it through the pragmatic answering of questions. The governor appeals to the beliefs and values of the audience as she gives statements and answers. In discussing the allocation of state funds, she states that, quote, "Education has been a priority," end quote, and that education is, quote, "a cornerstone of our investments." In discussing after-school programs, she talks about the importance of embellishing these programs to create a stronger sense of community, and that the state wants to see, quote, "interested young people who desire to be connected." While discussing gun violence in the state, as well as laws that have been passed recently to control gun violence, she says, quote, "Until we've done everything humanly possible that balances the constitutional rights of gun owners who are responsible with the rights of people who have been harmed, murdered, or threatened, we have policy work to do," end quote. In terms of how my text relates to genre, it does display patterns the audience will recognize and understand. Also, it displays guidelines of how a text like this should be structured and scripted, etc. We see the effectiveness of the text. Ethos and logos were used in a way that creates a persuasive and successful argument.